Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day no matter what they're doing. So, we've got a big show today. And so, one of the stories I was going to do kind of just went to the wayside. We have some, when I say breaking news, guys, literally, this just came in my email 2 seconds ago. Hey, Dad, how are you? So this literally just came into my email 2 seconds ago. So as everybody knows, about the end of May. I interviewed Jeremy Fowler for the Wrap, and I have the Wrap Pro and everything else. We have casting for Superman Legacy. We have casting right now. This just literally dropped in my inbox. So this comes to us from Burl Gonzalez, okay? And David Coruscant is going to be playing the new Man of Steel in Superman Legacy, okay? It was announced just today that David's going to be playing the new iteration of Superman in Superman Legacy. Rachel Brunison has also been cast as Lois Lane, which means my guess is either in the next. So actually, let me backtrack a little bit. The story I was going to do was saying that the casting was imminent. Okay, I didn't think it was going to be imminent like today, right now. Okay, so that all being said, Rachel Brosnahan is going to be cast as Lois Lane. So of course, he's replacing Henry Cavill in Man of Steel, and so Superman Legacy tells the story of Superman, his journey to reconcile his Kryptonian heritage with his upbringing as Clark Kent in Smallville, Kansas. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way, guided by human kindness in a world that sees kindness as old-fashioned. Coruscant earned widespread acclaim for his breakout performance in the Netflix The Politician. He also recently starred in the acclaimed A24 indie movie Pearl. Netflix has Look Both Ways and HBO's acclaimed miniseries We Own the City. He also wrote and directed and starred in this sketch comedy Mo and Jerry Weather. He will next be seen opposite Natalie Portman with the upcoming Apple television series The Lady in the Lake. Okay, let's talk about this because it's huge. This just, hey, Metal. So Superman Legacy casting just dropped. Literally as I was about ready to start the show. This is huge. We finally have, and I, you know what? Truth be told, I kind of saw this coming, not the time, okay, because obviously this just happened, but yes, it is confirmed, Deb. It is confirmed. So this comes from the Wrap. Okay, this is the same guy that broke the Fast X spoiler. This is the same guy that broke the Legacy release date and has now broken the casting news for Superman Legacy. And that's huge. That's huge. So I would not be shocked or surprised if we got some sort of Lex Luthor type of casting within the next 24 hours or by the end of the week. This is the mystery has been solved to a certain extent. And that all being said, it's going to be curious to see who they get to play Lex Luthor. Because once again, as everybody knows, for me at least, it's all about story. And Gunn, we all know, is about story as well. And there's actually a piece I'm going to do later on talking about this. But more importantly, what does this mean? Like there are so many questions surrounding it. So obviously, screen testing had been going on for a while. They had kind of just done some screen testing. They were trying to figure out who's who, and now it's here. And it was interesting, though, in that piece, okay, if you notice, it was very short, by the way, okay? There was no release date. Now, I don't know what that means. I mean, it could mean that hey, look, we're going to push Superman Legacy back. Or it's just, hey, look, there's so much stuff here that has to be unpacked that how do we do it? And I think that might have been it. But yes, so anybody who's just coming in, okay, we have breaking news literally in the last 5 minutes. We have Superman Legacy casting. So David Coruscant is actually going to be playing Lois Lane or Superman in Superman Legacy, and Rachel Brosnahan is going to be playing Lois Lane. Now she's done a lot of other things. I mean, so one of the earlier things that she did was House of Cards. So if anybody remembers that show on Netflix, of course she did The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and she's done plenty of other things. And I kind of feel bad. There's one person I feel really, really, really bad for, and that's Nicholas Hoult. So anybody who has watched the channel over the past few months knows what Nicholas Hoult's tried out for. This is his fourth role that he has lost out on. And he has to be saying to himself, what do I have to do to buy a role? Now, a couple years ago, just last year, he was in The Menu, and I loved him. Loved him. But this is the fourth role he's lost out on. So anybody who's familiar with what he went out for, okay, this is big. This is big. So this is big. You're right. It is metal. It is. Literally, this dropped in my inbox like 5 minutes ago. I was getting ready, prepping for the show, and this just came in. So I wanted to drop this news first. So this is breaking news. But I think the thing is that I feel really, 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 really bad for Nicholas Hoult. Because this is the fourth role he has had that he hasn't gotten. Okay? Now, he tried out for the Batman. Okay, the one that Robert Pattinson actually, that film, okay, the Matt Reeves film, he didn't get it. He was going to be a really, really intricate part in Mission Impossible 7. And because of contractual agreements with his Hulu and everything else, it was a scheduling conflict. And he was going to be a major part in that. And he didn't get that role. Then, okay, there was another role that he went out for that was a pretty big role that he didn't get. And now he doesn't get Superman Legacy. I feel so bad for him because, as I said, this is the fourth role he's gone out for and he hasn't gotten. And it's one of those things where he's got to be like, what do I have to do to buy a role? So, okay, so what I'm going to try and do, so I don't know if I have the picture here. Okay, I think, so that, just quickly, real quick, Nicholas Hoult is on the far left. Okay, that is the one that everybody thought that was the front runner, if you will. Okay, he had been screen tested. He was doing the costumes. Okay. David is, I believe this is David right here. Yes. Okay, I want to just double check for everybody. This is the man right here. Okay, right next to Nicholas. That is the one that is going to be playing Superman. Okay. Now, obviously, he's not going to be having the beard or anything. This was at a TIFF premiere that he was doing. So that is the guy. So I would just say this: take the goatee and the beard off of him. So over to here's Rachel Brosnahan. She is going to be the one that's playing Lois Lane. And so, I mean, those two are going to be, doing their thing. I mean, right there, I mean, it looks like a good match. It really does. I mean, she's pretty fair-skinned and everything else. I mean, there's going to be so many particulars about this. Okay. Now let me. So bear with me, guys. As I'm talking to you, I'm going to get a little information about David, and I mean, yes, about what he's done and everything, but how old he is and all that stuff. Um, so, so I want to right now. It's one of those things where, um, so he was okay. So here we go. So a little bit about him, okay. So that as I said, he's known for those things, okay. Um, let's see if we can't find a little bit of a bio here. Um, okay, so he's 6'4". He's actually going to be celebrating a birthday on July 8th. So he's from Philadelphia. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where he looks the part. He looks the part. He's 6'4". I mean, now you have to understand too, okay, you have to have somebody in that's kind of his what am I trying to say? His equal, right? So now okay, she, as I said, so she's won an Emmy before, okay, but she's most known for House of Cards, like I said, in the first couple seasons, Marvelous Miss Maisel, okay. Um, and guys, sorry, I'm stuttering and bearing with it because this is literally breaking news. This just dropped off the wire from the Wrap. So she's 5'3". Okay, she'll be celebrating her birthday in the middle of July, and so there's a big difference there. There is a big, big, big difference there. Um, that's huge. That's huge. So I think Gunn should push back Blue Beetle till next year and scrap Aquaman. Well, I mean that's something to be said about that. I mean, it's kind of hard to scrap Blue Beetle right now because we're only six. We're not even. We're a little less than a month away. And I think the thing is that it's very difficult to do because you've got all the publicity out there, you've got release dates, and you know, um, I could see Aquaman maybe, but I don't know about that. Cast Holt as Jimmy Olsen and Mackie as Lana Lane. Yeah, there's a thought. There's a thought. There's a thought. Although I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where maybe, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do this. So the first and foremost thing I notice, okay, is there's a huge not age, but height difference. Okay, usually actors and actresses, they're relatively right around the same height, the foot difference. Okay, so what does this mean? I think that's a big thing to dive into. What does this mean? It means a couple things. Number one, well, it means we have official casting. Number two, I guess my question is, since you had, and he's going to have to, and he'll do the transformation and everything else, he's going to have to get very fit physically and everything else. But you have to make sure you cast the correct Lex Luthor if you're going to go down that route. I mean, there are a ton of villains you can do for Superman, but assuming they do Lex Luthor to start, okay, it's going to be fascinating to see who they cast because it has to be somebody to his equal. I could maybe see, if you're going to do that, I could maybe see a Nicholas Hoult as a Lex Luthor. I mean, I think that take off the hair there and do a little photoshopping. I think you could see him be not a Jimmy Olsen, but a Lex Luthor. I think that it would work. I do. Um, James Gunn casting most white actors when uh, where Black and Latino actors in this film. I don't know, and that's that's always a thing. That's always a thing. So I don't know. I can't answer that for you, Kevin. Um, this is Superman has always been a default character that can be anything. Because remember, he's not human. I don't know. Um, I'm sure we're going to find out many months from now that this person tried and that person tried out, and at the end of the day, Kevin, it comes down to this: you never want to put an actor into a role that doesn't fit them, right? So you never want to shoehorn an actor in there that's not the same, not ready to be, you know, because both of their lives, see, that's the thing. Both of their lives have changed, completely changed now. This is a world, think about it like this. Okay, think about it like this. When you have a huge casting like this, okay, the thing is that this is a worldwide thing. Okay, this isn't just a United States thing. This is a worldwide thing. This is like Daisy Ridley being cast as Rey, completely changed her life. This is like any big role you can imagine for big franchise, because don't forget, here's the thing. This isn't just one role. It's the one role in Superman, but this is a commitment. This is a commitment. And you're talking 4, 5, 6 years. So to your point, they have to be able to adapt and change with that. Yeah, absolutely. So the full cast hasn't been. Okay, yeah. So it was just these two. The lineup is okay. I got to see a trailer. So we're not going to probably see a trailer for 6 months at least. At least. I mean, there's a number of things going into this, right? Number one, you have the writer's strike going on. Number two, you have to. I mean, they were still in pre-production. My guess is cameras aren't even going to begin starting to roll in this until the beginning of 2024, because you're going to at least need 6 to 9 to 12 months for post, at least. So, but this is huge, guys. This is absolutely. So the story I was going to do is who is going to be cast, right? This is absolutely huge. Yeah, so anybody coming in right now, as I said, this just broke in the last 5 minutes that David Coruscant is going to be playing the new Man of Steel in Superman Legacy. And Rachel Brosnahan, okay? So it's the one on the left, the gentleman there, right here in the second one. And then the young lady who's on the far right, that is the Superman Lois Lane. Now, I think it's a big thing. And and the last thing I'll say is this. They're trying to, you always have to think a step ahead, right? At least I do. What is the big thing that's gone wrong this week? The Flash. It dropped 73%. I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, guys. I think what they're doing is they're throwing a curveball. They are making people. It's like when HBO Max said, "We're going to rebrand, okay? But yeah, we're being investigated off by the DOJ, but we're going to take all these titles off." It's the same concept, okay? The fact is that The Flash just lost 73% at the theaters this last weekend. Okay, this is probably going to be on VOD or on whatever July 4th. They are trying to basically make people look the other way. Guess what, guys? We've got a brand new thing for Superman Legacy. And they cast it. Mark my words, within the next 24 to 48 hours, you're going to hear no Flash talk. You're not going to hear any Flash talk. Why? Because, let's face it, this is the major thing going on, right? This is the perennial movie that's going to start this whole thing. I think that all being said, Gunn knows what he's doing. And we all question him and say, oh, was this the right move or was that the right move? They know exactly what they're doing. Now, are they in deep trouble? Absolutely. Absolutely. But they also know one casting like this and the internet breaks. This is Tuesday afternoon on the West Coast, guys. It's 1:25 here on the West Coast in the afternoon. And this is going to break the internet. And nobody in the next 24 to 48 hours is going to be talking about the Flash. I guarantee you, you go on Twitter right now, it's blowing up. There are spaces being done about this. Okay? Hell, I'm doing a show about this. I walked into this, but this was going to be one of the major stories. Okay? This is a worldwide thing. And this is why I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is why James Gunn wanted to head this off at the pass. Okay? You're telling me Gunn had no idea? Of course he did. He knew all he had to do was throw him a curveball. Hey guys, look over here. And everybody's going to take the bait. I'm fully taking the bait too. So, I'm one of those guys that's going to do the same thing. If even DC Studios' upcoming films, Blue Beetle, Aquaman, are good films, people will not go out and support them, these films, to make it a box office success. Sad to say. Here's the thing. You write about one thing, okay? The lack of productive films that they've had, okay, has really killed DC. It really has. But I think The Flash was an anomaly. Okay, I've talked about this ad nauseum. Okay, you guys have talked about it here in the chat. There were so many things that went wrong with The Flash. Okay, part was their fault, part wasn't their fault. Okay, part was their fault because you had the writer's strike. Okay, part was not their fault with Ezra Miller doing what he did. Okay, it was their fault that they showed multiple fan screenings, okay, across the country, because that's millions and millions and millions of dollars out of out of their pocketbooks, their wallets. All of the reviews, the majority of the reviews that came out of CinemaCon were positive. So, and there is from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, there is a rule of thumb that if you are watching something there, you kind of don't want to give your opinion, your real opinion. So if you thought, by the way, we don't even know if that was a finished product. There were 3 different endings to this film. I did a whole piece about that a couple weeks ago. Okay? There were 3 different endings to this film. They were still testing it out up until its release date. There were a lot of problems. So to say that people won't support it, people may not support Blue Beetle as they should. People will absolutely support this in a heartbeat because they know, once again, it's James Gunn. And so there's a story here. So anyways, guys, let me compound it by saying this. What do you guys think about this breaking news that David Cornswet is going to be Superman and Rachel Brosnahan is going to be Lois Lane? Do you like these castings? Do you think they're good? Who would you like to see play Lex Luthor? Who would you like to see play Jimmy Olsen? Leave your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So, let me just get to this. The Flash was a failure because of the way they hyped it up. That's what I believe. And how they took offense to the CGI, saying it was supposed to look like that. I think it was really a bad time. No, you're right. You're right, Mel. You're right. The fact is that they hyped this up so much at CinemaCon. Now, obviously, when you have people like Stephen King coming out and Tom Cruise saying it was good, and David Zaslav saying it was the best thing he'd ever seen, and everything else, you knew there were problems. You knew there were going to be problems. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of other things, and the CGI was shoddy, and that's the one main complaint of everybody not enjoying the film. Because, look, I'm one of those people too. I didn't like the film. Okay. I mean, it was the cameos, and there was just so much wrong with it. I also hear that Aquaman isn't looking too good either. I hear people walking on. That's what I mean. So, I mean, and I did the piece the other day, last week, that there are $1 billion in debt right now. Warner Brothers is in a serious, serious hole. Okay, people don't realize that. Shazam! Fury of the Gods made $226 million worldwide. I didn't stutter. Worldwide. So, and I always had said for months, and you guys know I said this because I was saying it ad nauseum, Shazam 2 was going to be a litmus test for The Flash. And you saw what happened. $55 million opening weekend, it dropped 73%. That's why this is a curveball. People are trying to look the other way, make them look the other way. Blue Beetle's coming out. We don't know what tracking is for that. Okay. But the other thing, too, is Aquaman. You just brought up Aquaman, right? The thing is that this movie is, they have to eventually tear off the Band-Aid and get out of the whole DCEU thing. They have to. That's why I don't blame James Gunn for the Flash, even though he said what he said, because that was not under his regime. Okay. If Legacy comes out in 2025 or whenever it does, and this is, once again, this is why he's taking over and he's doing it himself. So there are no problems. I think that it's going to be a big thing. James Gunn's Suicide Squad was a pretty good film and still bombed. But the thing about that, Kevin, is that was during the pandemic. Okay? So that was no, you're right. I really enjoyed Suicide Squad. But the thing about that was it was during the pandemic. Take a movie like Dune. Dune was a very solid film. But that movie bombed. Why? Because it was during the pandemic. So, I mean, I think you have to cut a little bit of slack to those films that, and hell, you got a Peacemaker series out of it. And you're going to be getting a Waller series out of it. So, I mean, he knew what he was doing there. This is actually pretty great casting. They both looked the part, especially Rachel has this Margot Kidder, Elizabeth Turlick feel to her, even if she looks like the version tonight. Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to be, look, just like any other casting, it doesn't matter if it's this guy playing Superman or it's Christian Bale playing Batman or whoever it is. People are not going to like it. There are going to be those, mark my words, the haters are going to come out in the next 24 hours if they haven't already. They'll be like, oh, this is a horrible thing, blah, blah, blah. You can't please everybody. But James Gunn knows what he's doing. So, Meadow says, I think this all started with Black Adam, possibly. But Black Adam was a disaster, though. Black Adam was a disaster, though, because, shoddy CGI, the story, The Rock trying to do, power play there. So, anyways. But this actually is perfect to move to my second story. Okay? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be able to top that. But this is going to move into my second story. And the second story is that James Gunn, okay, he's a brilliant filmmaker. Everybody knows it. Okay. And basically, he was on a podcast, I would say, a few weeks ago. And he had been talking to actually the character who played Lex Luthor, believe it or not. And he has his own podcast, Michael Rosenbaum. And they were talking about story. And so this piece comes from Variety, talking about James Gunn sounding off on his quote, really lazy superhero movies and bad third acts. There's no rhyme or reason on what's to happen on screen. James Gunn agreed during a recent interview on Inside of You podcast that there are, quote, too many superhero movies, end quote, and television shows. Gunn is the new co-boss of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran, and he assured fans that the company will not, quote, overextend itself with content as it begins to launch a new DC universe that includes Gunn's Superman legacy and more. We're going to be very careful with the product that we put out, and we're making sure everything is as good as it could possibly be, Gunn said. While the sheer volume of superhero content is a problem, Gunn stressed that the lazy storytelling is a much bigger issue facing the genre at the moment. People have gotten really lazy with superhero stories, Gunn said, and they've gotten to the place where it's another superhero movie. Let's make a movie about it. And then it's, let's make a sequel because the first one did pretty well. And they're not thinking about, why is that story special? What makes the story stand apart from other stories? What is the story at the heart of it all? Why is this character important? What makes this story different than it feels the need to get people in the theaters to go see it? He continued, people have gotten a little lazy, and there's a lot of biff and pow and bam stuff, and it's happening in movies. And I'm watching third acts of superhero films where I just don't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to what's happening. I don't care about the characters, and they've gotten too generic. A solution to the problem is having very different genres within the larger superhero movie genre, as opposed to this sort of middle of the road, his quote, middle of the road of genre and tone that's too many superhero movies have. I like very serious superhero movies, and I like very comedic superhero movies, said Gunn. I like ones that are murder mysteries, but with superheroes. I like to see different types of stories, as opposed to the same old story told over and over again. Gunn and Safran's new DC universe will span film, television, and video games. In addition to Superman Legacy, which Gunn is writing and directing, the new DC film slate will also include Supergirl, World of Tomorrow, and Batman Brave the Bold, the latter of which will be directed by the Flash helmster, Andy Muschietti. Okay, so let's talk about this because it's important. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, okay, and look, people can question him and everything else. James Gunn knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Now, I mean, here are a couple. So I found this. So here are a couple of movies that came out that are good and bad. Okay. So let's touch upon each one of them real quick. Avengers: Infinity War for me is one of the top 5 or top 7 MCU films, hands down, twice on Sunday. Okay. Not only because we got to see Thanos in all of his glory and everything else, but because it was emotional. Okay. You followed all of these characters for over 10 years. And then when you see what happens at the end, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but when you see what happens at the end, you're broken up. People were telling me they were crying when they saw what happened. Crying. And so if anybody actually wants to go back and watch it, okay, I did a whole 5-year retrospective of Avengers: Infinity War. And I watched it with the director's commentary on. And so what they said, what the Russos was talking about, were the fact that this was a tragedy. This was a tragedy that happened, okay? And it took a lot of gumption. So McFeely and I'm trying to think of the other one off the top of my head, but the two writers had been with them, all the way back to Winter Soldier many years earlier, okay? 5 years earlier. That all being said, they ended this on the plot point of no return. So anybody who's a screenwriter or they know anything about screenwriting knows that there's a plot point called plot of no return. And it's where the villain is, they think the villain's going to win and the hero is going to have a problem. They ended it on that plot point. And that took some serious, serious gumption because you just don't do that. Okay. And there are franchises out there, okay, that do it very, very well. And there are other franchises that do it not so well. And I'm talking about something like a Harry Potter. Harry Potter did it well, okay? Hunger Games did not do it well, okay? Now, that's why, and that's why I made a gazillion dollars and everything else, because it was the culmination of everything, but it worked. The third act of that movie was incredible. It was incredible. Okay, let's move on to Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home was another incredible movie that had legs, okay? For a couple of different reasons, okay? And by the way, that's in the top 5 or top 7 MCU films, okay? In my opinion. By the way, this is all subjective, so, but that being said, number one, okay, this was really the beginning of the nostalgia train. Okay, when we look at the nostalgia of films going back for like the last few years, this is it. This is the film that started the whole thing. Okay, you've gotten plenty of other films since, okay, that have tried to touch upon it, but none have done it as equally as good. So that you had the story, okay? What was brilliant about this is a couple of things. Number one, you had the story. But number two, each film, whether it was Homecoming or Far From Home or No Way Home, encompassed a full year in Peter Parker's life, a school year. And that was a major problem that, you know, the first, and I'm not saying they're bad films, but like the McGuire series and the Garfield series, they didn't do. Peter Parker was supposed to be a high school kid. So when we meet him in Civil War, he's living with his aunt and everything else, right? He's a young kid. He's a high school kid. There's something to be said about that. Okay, so No Way Home. Number one had the story. Okay. Number two, it was emotional. Number three, okay, yes, they did the nostalgia just right. They touched upon each thing just right, and they made Toby and they made Andrew a part of the um, movie, a big part of the movie, but it was the second half of it. They didn't just throw them in because it's a long movie, so it's a little over 2 hours. So there's something to be said there. Okay, incredible movie. That's why nobody. I'm going to say this right now. Anybody who thought that was going to make $260 million opening weekend, they're a liar. They're a liar. They're a liar. Because even when tracking was coming out for this, okay, it was 80, 90, 100. And this is pre-pandemic. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, okay. And then it started to get bumped up to like 120, 140. And like, okay, there's going to be a big movie. Nobody thought that this was going to make $255 million over the weekend. So, just a little side note, okay? So, as it stands right now, okay, it made $260 million opening weekend. Think about that. $260 million. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it was just unbelievable. So let me see if I can't. 2021. So it actually, this tells you something, okay? It grossed $800 million here in the States, okay? So look at it like this, okay? It made $1.9 million, billion dollars. Think about it like this. Black Panther opened to, well, didn't, oh, it, so that's one of 8 films. This is those 2 films there, Avengers Infinity War and Spider-Man No Way Home, are 2 of only 8 films ever to open to $200 million plus. A lot of them are Marvel films, okay? Endgame, um, Infinity War, right there, okay? The Avengers, that was the first film back in 2012. No Way Home, Jurassic World, okay? Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. 6 of those 8 movies are Marvel films or Disney films. But nobody had a point that this was going to make $260 million opening weekend. Put in perspective, Endgame made 324. That tells you something. Okay, so I kind of went off on a tangent there about there. But nonetheless, let's move to the last film. Okay, and that's Batman vs. Superman. Now, Batman vs. Superman was one of those films, and everybody can watch the YouTube videos about when it was, the trailer dropping and everything else. Getting back to the third act, that third act was terrible. I mean, I've watched it, and I've watched the extended edition. That movie was terrible. Excuse me. That movie was terrible. And of all of the time they were together, the fighting, and that's everybody. I mean, look at it. Batman versus Superman. 8 minutes. I didn't stutter. 8 minutes they were on screen together, fighting as Batman and Superman. That's it. Once the fight was done, that was it. So there was a big buildup, and then that's it. The person that stole the show from me in that movie was Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. So when he talks about bad third acts, you have 2 examples that are very good. And once again, film's subjective. You have 2 that are, in my opinion, are very good, and the other one is not. Okay. Now let's talk about a couple films that came out in 2021. You had mentioned Suicide Squad, right? Suicide Squad, I loved Suicide Squad. I loved it. Okay, not just because it was James Gunn and everything else, because A, he had done that kind of thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay. But B, he was very detailed in the story, whether it was Polka Dot Man, whether it was Peacemaker, whether it was Idris Elba's character. We got more Harley Quinn in that. So that was a big thing. Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman made $1 billion. Everybody was looking forward to that. And it fell flat. It really, really fell flat. Okay. With Kristen Wiig and Cheetah, and it just didn't work. Bring back Chris Pine, the whole 9 yards. Okay. Once again, we talked about No Way Home, just crushing it. Shang-Chi, very, very, very good film. Why? For a couple of reasons. Number 1, it was the introduction to a new character. Number 2, it was a different character. Okay? This is somebody that was not your generic white male or white female character. This wasn't, a Harley Quinn or a Joker or whatever. So that was, the diversity was there too. Okay. Number 3, it went in depth about the character. Okay. We saw his homeland. We saw why his father was doing what he was doing. We saw all of these things. Really good. And then next to him, okay, you have Eternals. I didn't care for Eternals at all. Okay. As a matter of fact, I was really dismayed by it. Why? Because there was too much CGI. There was way too much CGI. And it turned me off. if I'm going to go see a movie, I want I don't want to be 85, 90% of it being CGI. Okay. And once again, it kind of goes back to the Flash. I mean, that's one of the biggest mistakes that they had was their crap CGI. So Gunn. So last thing I'll say is this: James Gunn. James Gunn knows how to write stories. Okay, because as he said, he knows what he's doing with the story and everything else. Okay, whether it's the Suicide Squad there on the right, okay, or whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy there on the left. Okay, he knows what he's doing. And this is why I think that everybody, even if you're not the biggest DC fan, they need to give him a chance. Because he clearly knows what he's doing. And what I'll say is this: it's quality over quantity. One big thing that Marvel has got a problem with, okay, is the fact that they just keep pushing things out left and right. I have always said this. I would rather 5 excellent feature films and things on Disney Plus than 10 mediocre ones. Because once you start oversaturating people, they start to take mediocrity as a given. And we don't deserve that. Okay? We don't deserve that. And the other thing, too, is one of the biggest things is they're interconnecting Disney Plus and what they're doing with Disney Plus. And I understand they need content, but that's all icing on the cake. They didn't make their money by Disney Plus. They made it by the $1 billion Infinity War. They made it by the almost $3 billion Endgame. They made it by Civil War. They made it by the $200 million opening of Avengers. That's how they made their money. So, Guardians of the Galaxy. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Guardians of the Galaxy next year, guys. Okay? They went from being C-list, superheroes to A-listers. Why? Because of the story. And that's what he's getting at. Anyways, what do you guys think about James Gunn in his comments? Do you think he's right? Do you think there are too many superhero movies? Do you think there needs to be a subsection of superhero movies? Or would you rather just keep it the way it is? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay. So we have actually one more story. Okay. And we've got two more stories, really. So the first story is about somebody that basically, when we look back at film, and I always say this, we look at the here and now and the, back at film 10 years from now. Okay. Jennifer Lawrence is one of the greatest actresses of this generation. Okay. I'm not going to say of all time, but because it's just a lot. She's only 34 years old. Okay. She dominated the 2010s. Okay. She's been nominated 3 or 4 times. She won her Academy Award for Silver Linings Playbook back in 2012. She's a fantastic actress. So, reason I bring this up is a couple of things. Number one, we just had No Hard Feelings come out. Okay. Which is a complete departure from her. So anybody who has followed Jennifer Lawrence's career, basically she has done, the up and coming things like The Winter's Bone and everything else. But once 2012 came, that was her year and she took off. And there is somebody, the minute she got cast as Catrice, her life changed. So here's the piece. Here's the reason why I bring this up. So, according to THR, okay, she said she was immediately turned down for Twilight and almost didn't take on Hunger Games because of the fandom. Jennifer Lawrence opened up about how she auditioned for Twilight and turned it down, quote, immediately, only to land the Hunger Games a year later. During an appearance On the Rewatchers podcast with Bill Simmons, the No Hard Feelings actress explained that she didn't even get a callback for the role of Bella Swan, which eventually went to Kristen Stewart, but she's glad she didn't. My life would have been totally different. I mean, the work is still the same, but I feel similar when I was doing the Hunger Games. I had to churn out movies in between, so I'm not only known for the franchise. I was still in a franchise, so I was trying to counteract the franchiseness, and I was still doing that if I was in Twilight. She revealed that she almost didn't agree to the Hunger Games because she was worried about the immense fandom that could come with it. The Oscar winner explained that she had tried talking to people about how she was concerned to join a massive franchise, but they didn't understand what she was trying to say. It was so hard to explain to people, Lawrence continued. It was like, I don't think you understand this level of fame. I just assumed it was going to be like Twilight, like the Twilight level of fame, and that there was never something I had that was never something I had in mind. Instead of superstardom, the Silver Linings Playbook star shared that she simply wanted to work on quality projects. I wanted to do indies and I wanted to do good films, but I didn't want to be the most famous person on the planet, she added, adding that she would have been, quote, miserable if she had landed in Twilight. That's a very different life. That's what I had pictured for myself. Lionsgate is rebooting The Hunger Games with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which takes place over several decades before the events of the original franchise. The film follows an 18-year-old Cornelius Snow, played by Tom Blight, where he becomes the tyrannical president of Panem, and the District 12 tribute, Lucy Gray, played by one Rachel Ziegler, during the 10th annual Hunger Games. The prequel features an entirely new cast, but Lawrence recently said she wouldn't turn down the possibility of returning to the role one day. So, let's talk about this in a couple ways. Number one, I think that we lose sight, and when I say we, I mean general audiences, we lose sight of they're people too. They're just people. Now, the only difference between you and I and everybody else, okay, and movie stars and people, they're in the public eye. So they have to be a lot more careful. They have to be a lot more careful of what they say, how they say it, when they say it, and why they say it. Because not only are they a role model to young women, in this case, but you have millions and millions of fans. And it's one of those things that you got to remember, back in 2012, right? She was 24 years old. This is brand new to her. She's only been at, she said, I wanted to do indies. This is exactly what. Look at what happened with Kristen Stewart after Twilight. She went dark for several years. You didn't see her in another major motion picture for years. Why? Same thing with Patterson. Why? Because they wanted to get rid of the stigma. They wanted to say, hey, look, I'm not that Twilight girl. I'm not that Twilight guy. Okay? And that's the same thing. So this franchise helped her set her up for all of these roles down the road. When you look at what she did after, okay, I'm talking about Hunger Games, but I'm also talking about films like, which she won, as I said, where she won her Academy Award. Okay. Okay, sorry about that, guys. StreamYard just doesn't like me sometimes. But the Hunger Games set up everything she did. I mean, she played Mystique for how long? But she was contractually had to do that. Okay? So, but the Hunger Games set her up for the next 10 years. I mean, she got American Hustle, which she got nominated for an Academy Award for. She got Joy, okay, which she got an Academy Award nomination for. She got Serena, okay, and she got a couple of other films. What do those all have in those three films have? Well, two of those three films have Bradley Cooper in it. So, but she made it. But the point is that she is a person too. And I think we lose sight as a general audience of it's difficult. It is difficult being a star in Hollywood and having to walk on eggshells. And, I'm glad that I think a lot of people are glad she turned down Twilight. She didn't get a call back for it. But can you imagine if anybody, file this under, there's nobody else I could have seen play Katniss. That's what it comes down to. And I think that all of that being said, I think at the end of the day, we as a society need to take a step back and realize that they're people too. They are. They're like you and me. Okay, no matter where you are in the world, the only difference is they're in the public eye. And moving forward, I mean, now she's a mother too. I mean, you're going to start to see, and that's why she took a movie like No Hard Feelings, because she had been known for this dramatic kind of role. I mean, look at her filmography. She's doing films like, she did Hunger Games, which was a franchise that blew up, but look at all the films after that. Okay. Once again, I mean, this picture gives a pretty good idea. Okay. She did American Hustle. Okay. She had to come back for Dark Phoenix because she was contractually able to. Okay. And not only that, she does Serena. She does, as I said, American Hustle. She does Joy. They're all serious roles. But now she goes to do something like, No Hard Feelings, which is a raunchy comedy, and everybody's like, oh, whatever. This is exactly, she got typecast. And she didn't want to be typecast. This is exactly what happened with Robert De Niro many moons ago. The man was only known as a cop or a gangster. What does he do? He goes out in 1994 and he does a little movie called Analyze This with Billy Crystal. It's a huge hit, smash success, because nobody ever thought Robert De Niro could be funny. He then goes on to do films like Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Bad Grandpa, all these other films. I think you're eventually going to start to see her get back to it, but she wants a stretch in which she can just do something that she wants to do. So I know how they truly feel, but that's the bad thing with indie films. When it comes to Patterson and Stewart, was the fact that cinemas will hardly release them to more areas. It's difficult to see some of them. Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though, Antonius. They didn't want to be on the map anymore. They didn't want to do that. I mean, only as of a couple of years ago, okay, it was only a couple of years ago that Kristen Stewart finally got back in and did Spencer, which she got an Academy Award nomination for, okay? She's back on the map. And she could go out and do a Charlie's Angels, and she can do these things, okay? Patterson was nowhere to be seen. And once again, when we're talking about casting, okay, we just had breaking news today of the Superman casting. That changed his life. Robert Pattinson is one of only 7 guys to ever play the role of Batman. Think about that. That changes it. Whether it's Adam West in the campy 1960s version in that movie, or you had Michael Keaton, or you had Ben Affleck, or you had Val Kilmer, or you had Christian Bale, okay, or you had George Clooney. You have 6 people. He's the 7th person. That's it. That all being said, That's why he went off the radar. And now he's back. And it's the same thing with them. And Superman is one of those things that changes your life. It changes your life. Just like a Batman, just like when Ridley got cast as Ray, just like when she got cast as, Candace, okay? It changes your life. And I think that the thing is, we don't, and I'm guilty of this too, we don't look at them like that. We look at them as stars. I agree what you mean. But if you feel better with movies outside of Blockbuster, good for them. Definitely. And see, that's the thing. What they can do, okay, it's a one for me, one for them. When you get to a status like that, you can do that. It's one for me, one for the franchise. And that's the big thing. So, but, I think but the moral of the story is this. We have to be a little more cognizant of who these people are. Because it's not Jennifer Lawrence, the movie star, it's Jennifer Lawrence, a human being. And she's a mother now, and she wants to do all these other things. Anyways, guys, what do you think about this story about Jennifer Lawrence almost not taking Hunger Games? Who would you rather have seen there, Candace Everdeen? Could you imagine her playing in Twilight? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everything. Okay, so now we have one more story, and it's pretty cool, actually. So this is a story in which this is about a film that is one of the most iconic films of all time. And when you see how much this goes for, it's a little impressive. I'm just bringing up the pictures right now. And okay, let's talk about this. So, as we all know, there was a little movie back in the 70s that kind of changed everything. Okay? And I'm talking about Star Wars: A New Hope. And it changed things for not only cinema, but special effects and everything else. So there was a little scene in this movie, and no, I'm not talking about the Greedo Han Solo scene, but there's another scene, and it's at the very end of the film, and it's a dress worn by that one Carrie Fisher. And this dress is now going to be auctioned off. And if you have a little extra money hanging around, you might want to go try and get this, but I don't know if you're going to be able to afford it. So this comes from the Wrap. And the headline says, Princess Leia dress from original Star Wars, from that picture you're seeing right there, could sell for $2 million at auction. The dress worn by Carrie Fisher in the final scene of the original Star Wars, which was long believed to be destroyed, has been found and restored and is now up for auction, and it could go as much as $2 million. The dress, worn during the scene where Princess Leia gives the medals to Han and Luke, but for some reason not to Chewie, was found in an attic in London, belonging to one of the film's original crew members. It was restored by hand over an 8-month period, according to Prop Store Auction, who's handling the sale of the dress. According to the company, the dress is the only surviving costume worn by Carrie Fisher in Star Wars. Designed by the Academy Award-winning costume designer John Malot, the dress is made of, quote, cream-light, lightweight silk fabric and includes intricate draping, end quote. Prop Store's auction says that's what they say. So Malone won the Oscar for costumes design for his work on Star Wars back in the 1978 Oscars. According to the company, only one copy of the dress was ever made for the film. If you have several hundreds of thousands of dollars burning a hole in your pocket, you could own a piece of history. And let's face it, American Cultural Society bidding starts at $500,000. And it's for this writing, and there's only been one bid at $750,000. The dress is valued between $1 and $2 million. That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty cool. Um, Star Wars is one of the most iconic movies of all time. It's on the top 100 AFI list for a lot of different reasons: music, effects, villain, story, everything. Um, you know, it's just it's an incredible movie. I mean, this is one of course, this is the beginning where we meet Darth Vader, but it's just an iconic movie. But when you hear something like this, that this dress is going for $2 million, that's unbelievable. Like, how? I mean, I understand how, but I think that's pretty cool. Um, I don't know if I had the money. If I mean, like, if I were completely uh, financially successful and everything, I don't know if I'd buy it. I mean, it's because I think it's a cool piece of history, but I think that that belongs with like somebody with the Academy, right? I think that's one of those things that they could put in the Academy Museum. I mean, I'm sure they have other costumes there, but I don't know. I wouldn't. I just couldn't see spending upwards of $2 million on a dress, you know. And then you have to make something for the dress. Like you have to get it to, you know, put housing over it so it doesn't, and you have to make sure it's, you know, because I'm sure it's very delicate as it's stated. But yeah, no, I always like to end on a cool little note. But I saw that story the other day. I went, wow. I mean, I remember Star Wars, and everybody remembers Star Wars. It's made a dent in the zeitgeist of Hollywood, but I don't know. Anyways, guys. Anyways, what do you think about that? Would you spend $2 million to buy that dress? Would you go get something else if you could about Star Wars? Or would you say, I'm good? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so like I said, yeah, sorry about the phonetic opening there for the first 20 minutes. That news about Superman literally just dropped when I was opening. So I wanted to put that in. Couple of things. Number one, so anybody who stuck around yesterday, I was a little late, but I actually ended up doing um, streaming training day. That's going to be going up on the Patreon probably tonight or tomorrow. So you guys can go over there and watch that. Today, I'm going to be doing Mob Mondays. So probably, and I would say like 4 o'clock, we'll call it, 4 o'clock Eastern or 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern. Come back here. And I'm going to be streaming Mob Mondays for the Patreon. So everybody who sees the Patreon or everybody who um, comes back here to watch it is going to be able to watch it for free. Okay? So that's one of those things where you're going to be able to see it for free. And yeah, I mean, it's so if you're not able to see it for free, unfortunately, um, you can head on over to the Patreon itself and catch it there. Okay. But sorry, guys. Because I the thing is, I can only put so many slides in. So when I was, that's the thing. That's why it stops every now and then, because I can only put up 9 slides with the camera. So that takes a 10 slot. And so, anyways, guys, come back here in a couple hours for Goodfellas. That's going to be more on Mondays. If you don't catch it here, you can always catch it on Patreon. Okay. And as I've said before, and I know there are a couple of you in here that do, and I thank you very much. You can support me by a couple different ways. One is hitting that join button. It's as low as $2.99 a month. Okay, goes all the way up to $9.99 a month. Okay, there's 3 different levels there. Another one is heading on over to the Patreon. I mean, so there's 2 different levels there. There's $5 for Mob Mondays, $10 for Rewatch Wednesdays. Very, very cheap. Go to the store. There's there's mugs, there's t-shirts, there's hoodies, there's a bunch of stuff over there. So coming up this week, we have the second episode of Secret Invasion dropping tonight at midnight. So on Thursday, I will be doing Secret Invasion Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Friday, you guys are going to be getting a brand new Mission Impossible. That's going to be Rogue Nation. There's only 2 left, Rogue Nation and Fallout. So come back for that then. Saturday, we've got a brand new movie coming out. So that's the Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. Stay tuned for that. Saturday is going to be the spoiler cast for that. Okay. And then Sunday is going to be Ask Me Anything. So that's where, you guys can ask me anything, and, I'll sit down and I'll talk to you guys about pretty much anything for a couple hours. So, and we're going to be doing this throughout the summer. So, okay. So that's going to do it for right now. But like I said, come back in a couple hours. Do the 3 things you guys got to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. And join me back here, and I'll tweet this out. Join me back here, 7 Eastern Standard Time, 4 Pacific, and I'm going to be talking all about Goodfellas. All right. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.